Good?
Yes.
You're able to? Okay, great. So let's get started. Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavid Vishavahaihi Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. So, Meena, you want to start?
ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन कृतितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्तदामि भगवद्गीते भगवद्वेक्षिणीम्.
Suvarna, your
नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय
No, Jnanamudraya Krishnaya.
गीतामृतदुहे नमः.
Jayashri?
वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, so today is the last session for the 12th chapter. We have come almost to the end of it, and we will finish off with the last two shlokas, and then we will do a summary of it as well. And so, in terms of reflections, is there anything that anybody wants to add to what we might discuss today? No? Okay, so let's move on then. So basically, we are finally in the chapter where, by looking at the perfect devotee, the perfect devotee, we always want to be this perfect student, perfect employee, and we always struggle through challenges. And when we face the challenges, we really come to know what qualities do we really need to work on, right? So basically, the whole idea in this last section of the 12th chapter is, we're dealing with a bhakta, a bhakta who is the highest form of the devotee, and uh, a lot of pointers for us, a lot of pointers in this chapter for us to really understand the qualities which we can learn from this greatest of the greatest bhaktas, which can help us to face different situations. So in that sense, 12th chapter is really one of the the most important chapter, I would say, which really has an impact on us. And this is the most important chapter in the second part of the three-part series, which we call, the Bhagavad Gita, using the Tattvam Asi principle. Here, this is about the Tat or Ishvara. And in that, and this is the last chapter in that second part of the six chapters. So the qualities that we need to face, are we living those qualities, is what we have to constantly monitor ourselves. So last week we started discussing about shloka number 18. And in this, actually, Krishna really starts to summarize for us what are those what are the qualities. And you will see that, in here he will say about how no matter what situation we face, we need to have a very, um, what should I say, an equally balanced mind. And no matter what it happens, you're going into a room for for a meeting, and you think you've been all prepared, but the situation turns completely on you. Can you still maintain that calmness? You're taking your car out of the driveway, and I know winter is coming soon, and you think everything is fine, but then there's a sheet of ice, which you never really expected. Are you really ready for it? You know, and all this is at the mind level. And at the mind level, if I'm completely in tune, and again we're talking about, the highest devotee. So if in the mind we are completely in tune with Ishvara, and then it is definitely possible for us to bring that control of my own self. So essentially we have this inner equipment called the mind intellect equipment, right? And this intellect mind equipment, it basically really is the one which controls all our senses from that when it goes out, we can actually be in total control. So that is the whole idea. And so in shloka number 18, he really talks about how to have that equanimity and stability when we come in contact with the external world. Um, Even simple things like, this throat business that I'm going through right now. um, I really cannot help what my throat is going through, but I have my work to do. So I try to take care of my throat. And if I really pamper my throat and stay where I am, that means, I'm just not allowing I mean, of course, I have to take care of my throat, do whatever I need to do, but at the same time, I'm not the throat, you know. I'm not this five sense organs which is really coming in contact with the world. So I need to be in complete control of how my senses are going out and sort of reacting also, or bringing all those perceptions and how I'm reacting to the world itself. So in that sense, this shloka is really important, which says sama shatrau cha mitre cha tatha manapamanayoho Shita Ushna Sukha Dukheshu Samasanga Vivarjitaha. And yes, Meena, I think you had asked me. I'm sorry, I just remembered. You wanted me to connect it to the second chapter,
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
Yes.
One second. Let me pull your um, question. So your question is um, um, feeling cold, hot, happy, sad is just temporary. In the second chapter, he says, and
Yes.
in this shloka, he's saying a person who feels
14th and 15th.
correct, correct. Oh, 14th and 15th. Oh, okay,
Yes.
I will pull uh,
Matras
Matras.
Prashasta Gonteya
Yeah,
Sidoshana Shugadukataha Akama Paino
yeah,
Nityaga Tamsti Dishashva Bharat.
correct. So in that shloka, Tam Titikshasva Bharata, he's asking the person to have the titiksha. Titiksha is that ability to have not being affected, not being affected by anything at all. And matra sparshas kaunteya. So these sparshas too, indicating all the five organs. Sparsha means the organ of seeing. So in all these things, Krishna in the second chapter itself, just when he's starting off the advice, what he does is he actually he's telling him that time itself, be in control of your senses. So that is how Krishna is starting off to speak to Arjuna as a student. It's like the very beginning, it's almost the kindergarten of education that he's going through.
Mm.
But here, he's bringing us that same aspect from the Anyan, the highest bhakta, actually.
Okay.
So from that point, he's saying, let me just
So you're
so
seeing this is at the lowest level in chapter 2. And also you have quoted while you gave a lecture on this 14th sloka, he's asking Arjuna not to be like a log of wood floating in water, and let him be like a lighthouse which sits firmly. So that was the
correct.
quote you gave.
Exactly. So, and that's actually a very beautiful example which Swami Chimananda uses,
Mhm.
to explain how we are leading a life in this world without knowing my true identity.
Mm.
Um, so when I identify myself with this physical body and also all the roles that this physical body is taking at different times of through the life journey, then what happens is I get tossed up and down. Like, for example, if I say I'm a director of some department, then on one day maybe somebody might, in fact, that will come, the shloka 19 talks about mana and apamana,
Mm.
but at my level of being a director, I might, have face a lot of, what should I say? I have to travel quite a bit, and I'm constantly complaining. Oh my God, I've not been able to sleep, and this particular bed was not good in this hotel room, or anything. And then I go to some other place in the hotel is very good, so I'm like really, really happy. So you go through so much of this ups and downs when we get identified with the role I'm playing and when I'm living at the level of my physical body. So that is the example where we had used at that time as this
Mm.
log of wood, the
Mm.
small log of wood which is bouncing up and down as
Mhm.
the waves of the ocean
Mhm.
goes. And what Swami Chimananda in that example he talks about is don't be that log of wood, instead be the lighthouse.
Which sits
The
firmly. Okay.
lighthouse, right. So the lighthouse is an analogy to show the identification of us not with this physical body, but with our inner self. So at my core, I am none other than that supreme consciousness. And but because I have been so habituated to find joy in this world in small, small things like objects and situations and relationships, because of that, I have become habituated only to that to get any kind of happiness. And but if I understand that happiness is not in the objects, but happiness is me myself, then I start to slowly turn inward, and then I'm like this lighthouse which just does not get affected by anything. The waves are lashing on the walls of the lighthouse,
Mhm.
and still in the midst of all that, the lighthouse is firm and strong. So that's the analogy for
Mm.
that
So
second.
dishasva means endure, right? Endurance.
Huh?
Dishas Dishashva. It means,
In second chapter?
yes, 14th
Oh,
sloka,
okay.
second one.
Yeah, I didn't.
No, Nityaga, Thamsik Dishashva Bharata. So Dishashva
Um,
means endurance, correct?
Endurance.
Okay.
Titiksha is actually, no, no, in fact, Titiksha is endurance.
Dishashva, yeah.
Titiksha.
Titiksha, okay.
Yeah,
Titiksha.
Titiksha means,
Thams
yeah,
Titiksha, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I just remembered about your question, so I didn't bring my
Mm.
full Gita book
No,
to
no
compare,
problem.
but I just remembered the shloka.
So basically, I was trying to understand the difference between these two. So this is at the lower level, which Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna about, since he has moved 10 chapters. So Arjuna has gained more knowledge. So this is a little advanced.
No, I don't think we can look at it that way.
Uh,
It's almost like um, when you're younger,
mm,
it's like like when you're in the kindergarten, not kindergarten, maybe kindergarten is too, in the first standard or second standard. In fact, in Balavihar alphabet song, we teach a Balavihar alphabet song where we say A is for ambition to reach a higher goal. Okay,
mm, mm.
that we just give them an idea that one should have an ambition to reach a higher goal. That's all we say.
Okay.
But the explanation of what that higher goal is comes much later. So, like for example, in the 11th grade Balavihar, for example, we teach them vision of Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
And in there, we tell them that, your higher goal is not really just buying that most expensive Lamborghini and buying a $2 million home.
Mm.
And, that is not what your higher goal is. That can be a goal which is intermediate, but your highest goal is moksha. So, but we don't talk about moksha in the second standard.
Yes. Okay.
So that's the only difference which here you would say. So
Mm.
here the word, for example, sama shatraucha mitrecha
Mm.
tata manapamanayoho shita ushna sukha dukkeshu. That shita ushna sukha dukkeshu is the only thing that is explained in the second chapter. Matra spashasta kaunteya shita
Okay.
ushna sukha
Okay.
deshu. Agama payino nityaha. They
Mhm.
come and they go,
Okay. Okay.
but
I just
you don't
wanted
get
to,
attached to it.
yeah, I
Yeah,
just wanted to hear from you how you relate this second chapter, 14th and 15th sloka with the current one,
okay,
this chapter.
right. Yeah,
Now I got an idea.
okay,
Thank you so
totally.
much.
Yeah, no problem. So, and so here the Sama Shatrocha Mitrecha, the one who has the same attitude towards a friend and a foe, that again, like just like last time I said, that doesn't mean that I make everybody an enemy. That is not the way. And again, a friend, many times, we think about a friend as the one whom I can depend completely on for anything. But then the dependence causes a kind of an attachment. So, the idea here being that I am the same to everybody. That is what he's trying to say here. So samatvam is what? So, this greatest bhakta is a person who really does not hate anybody at all. He does not get attached to any person because, again, the idea being that attachment leads to dependence, and therefore one has to be careful as to how we are treating people, both in a positive and a negative way. That is what he's trying to say, is that do it without attachment. And this one is kind of, this is the one that I was referring to earlier. Tatha manayoho. And in some sense, this will come about again in the 19th shloka as well. And the idea here being that, uh, in the world again, we get we get into situations where sometimes you're honored and sometimes you are not looked upon. So there is, so the idea we have to clearly remember is, whenever wherever somebody is honoring us, you know, and how to be detached from the honor even as you're going through it. And I remember this one story, I think, how Swami Chimananda, when anybody was honoring him, he would go into a kind of a meditative state. And when somebody asked him, what was he thinking about? He said, well, I was thinking about my guru. So any honor that came to him, he immediately kind of transferred that to his guru. So by which, his mind became very calm, and or not that his mind was very, he was always calm, that is a different thing. But the fact is he didn't get affected too much by the honor. So when that happens, so when the mind is like that, and same thing when somebody is trying to dishonor, again your mind is completely at peace, because you know that the person is dishonoring for that, at the core, if I truly identify myself with my core, then I will not really get affected by the dishonor that is coming. And uh, obviously the dishonor also has come for a certain reason. Maybe it was my prarabdha karma which is being affected by it, but by me not getting attached to the dishonor, I can actually let go to that extent the prarabdha karma which is being affected. But if I do get affected, then what happens is my karma increases, and then I'll have to go through again this process where I have to practice this detachment in the case of an or dishonor also. So the person who is sama shatraocha mitrecha and samaha tatha manapamani. So he's the same, no matter whether he's being honored or dishonored. And again, Shitosha Sukhe Deshu, which is again talking about the pair of opposites, and trying to understand that the world is really full of this opposites. There's just no question about me not going through it. I just have to be completely equanimous or samaha. And this is like the shock absorbers in a car, which definitely has to be there. And I always remember this Alaskan cruise that we went at one time. The ship is huge. I mean, and sometimes you wonder, why is this ship so huge? Why does it have such a big keel? But they are the shock absorbers, because you just never know when you're going into the ocean what kind of obstacles you're going to face in there. So, so this is the knowledge for us is the shock absorber, which allows us to be uh, sangha varjitaha, sangha vivarjitaha. So heat and cold, honor and dishonor, all this favorable, unfavorable situations, all this may come and they may go, but I do not get affected by it. I am completely free of all that. And I just read recently about how the mark of progress in an individual is by the kind of habits that that person has developed. And here I would say, when I have developed a certain set of habits of the sadhanas and everything in my daily life, and if I continue to practice that, then that leads me to a state where I am the same in all kinds of situations, you know and that is the mark of progress. I just recently, that kind of hit me hard, and the whole, ultimately the onus is on us. We need to develop the right habits in life. I need to develop the right schedule for myself every day, so that I just never know when all these pair of opposites will come and hit me. So then, in all of this, I can still be, away from it. Yeah. So, anything to add or very beautiful shlokas, right? So then in shloka 19, he lists out again, saying, brings this manam and apamanam part of it, you know. He will say that both the praise and the insult, they have absolutely no effect on the devotee. So if we think about it, when does somebody praise us or insult us? You know, I've given these examples of Buddha not being affected and all that, but let's think about ourselves, you know. We get praised maybe when we are doing something good, or I've achieved a certain position, a certain designation, I would say, not position, designation. And this is important to think about it that way, because designations come, designations go. So, usually, whether somebody praises me or somebody insults me, even, and the insult also comes because of the designation, you know, and we if we are very clear that these designations come to us are all temporary, then it's no problem. But then we get very identified with it. You know, I'm this director. How can somebody tell like this to me? You know, I've not been invited, or I have been sidelined. You know, all these things we try to say because we become attached to the possession itself, right? So that is a part that is really understood. In 19, he says, Tulya ninda stutihi mauni santushto yena kenachit aniketah stiramatihi bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Very powerful words here again. Tulya ninda stutihi. So ninda and stuti. Ninda means um, um, Ninda and Stuti means praise and insult. Okay. And then Santushtaha Yena Kenachit. So one who is content with whatever that comes to him. So that's how the actually it starts off. One who's content with whatever comes to him, and what are they? Censure and praise. You know, um, in both the cases, that person is silent. Silent doesn't mean in a passive way, but in a very understanding, knowing that both the praise and the insult are sort of situation dependent, or it happened during that day. This is not going to happen tomorrow, you know. So, but when I'm going through it, I don't even think about tomorrow. I think about, oh my God, I'm going through this, right? So, and then Aniketaha Stiramatihi. Aniketaha, beautiful word. Swami Chinmayananda's one of the namas for him is Aniketaya Namaha, you know, somebody who it's homeless, not from a point of view of, from poverty or anything like that. But the point is, the person doesn't have one permanent place like we do, you know. Like my address in the US was 22109 Green Tree. Okay, I still remember that because I lived for so long. It became my home, and I think that is my home. But then I was, when we gave that up and when we came to visit Michigan, it was so wonderful to visit everybody's home. And every place I went, I felt I was in my house, you know. It was so just a beautiful feeling. So, but at the level of Jnani, there's absolutely nothing, no attachment to any home. So bhakti among that, he says, is very poor. As that person is very pure, and that person is what is close to me. So, when do we get, how do we get praised? Many times is by when somebody garlands and or say some words, or writes a poem on my behalf. All this is when I think, so Tulyan is somebody who is totally away from all this. Santushto yena kenachit. Such a person has a mind that is very easily pleased. You know, like we say, Lord Shiva, one of the names for Lord Shiva is Ashutosh, right? Very, very easily, you give just a small thing, Lord Shiva is very, very happy, you know. But what do? We have made our minds so complex, so sophisticated sometimes that, it's very difficult to please us, and like especially like in the house, we try to, whether it's like coffee, for example, we are not happy with just any coffee. No, it has to be a blend of these two kind of different beans, and I have to do it at a certain temperature, and in a certain cup. All these are, we become so attached to all these that when I don't get that way, then I'm unhappy, right? So a sannyasi or the bhakta is a person who, takes things as it comes every day. And the reason I mentioned sannyasi is, sannyasis, one of the biggest things for them is they cannot demand any food. Like even when when we invite, a sannyasi to the home for bhiksha, we have to anticipate what the sannyasi needs and put that on the plate. We can't really expect them to ask, okay, no, no, I really like that eggplant. Can you bring that eggplant for me? I mean, they may express praise for how their eggplant was cooked and everything, but uh, through their actions, we really learn that they are santush to have whatever comes their way, they are happy with anything. And again, Aniketa, which I said beautifully, is the one who does not have a home of their own, you know. That is Aniketa. And this beautiful shloka, does anybody remember where it is from? सुरमन्दिरतरुमूलनिवासः शय्याभूतलमजिनं वासः
Rajagovinda?
सर्वपरिग्रह भजगोविन्दम, exactly. परिग्रह भोगत्यागः kasya sukham na karoti viragaha, very beautiful thing from Bhajagovindam. It is about, again, there are two shlokas in there. This is one of them which talks about the quality of a sannyasi. You know, taru meaning a tree. This sannyasi lives only under a tree, Mula nivasaha. Shaya Bhutana Majinam Vasa Sarva Parigrahas. They've given up completely Bhoga Tyagaha, you know, completely have given up any attachment to food. Then imagine the happiness of such a person. That's what it's saying. So Stiramatihi, so how does such a person enjoy? So this person, if they're not getting their enjoyment through food or through having a big home or anything, where does really that person's enjoyment come? How is this person, even surviving, we might say, right? At the end of the day, I get up in the morning because I feel that I have to achieve something. Why do I need to achieve something? Because I need to get some happiness, right? So here, this person, Stiramatihi, is a Stiramatihi. That person is content with their own self knowledge. And that self knowledge gives them a high amount of mental strength. So, that alone by itself is enough for this person, Stiramatihi. And when that knowledge is obtained, that I am that absolute reality, then nothing else can bother us. So, so with this shloka number 19, he basically completes that entire description of a wise person, or how the person conducts themselves in different. So we, just to summarize the 13th to 19th shloka, finally is we have done about close to uh, 30, 40, 40 qualities, and it is all about how the person reacts to situations, how the person's relationship with people, and the person's attachment or detachment from objects. So that is what we saw in all these 40 shlokas. So finally coming to the last shloka, he lists about more powerful things here. And here Krishna says that ultimately that devotee who has uh, who is not wandering in the world looking for time-bound goals like all of us, but that person who has fixed his goal as Ishvara, that is one, and who has absolutely unwavering faith, such people are very dear to me. So, devotees who love Ishvara without having known him first are the devotees of the highest caliber, he says. Since it's very, very difficult for us to love something without having first known it. But that person who just loves something without even knowing, with complete faith, that is very rare. Such people, they don't even have to go through this path of learning Bhagavad Gita and everything. That person's already there. So that's what, he's referring to here. He says, Ye tu dharmyam brutam idam yathoktam paryupasate श्रद्धधाना मत्परमाः भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः. Actually, in all these, there are quite a few words. There are about 8 words where everything is, she's using long vowels, dirgha notes, long, you know, just trying to say, again, uh, indicating the greater depth of love that is, Krishna is saying. And he says, actually his love for such devotees are so abundant. And here he is trying to, ye tu dharmyam amritamidam yathoktam paryupasate shraddha mat paramaha bhakta stetiva ativa me priyaha. So ye tu, those who, therefore, therefore, dharmya amritam, dharmamritam, the nectar of dharma. Idam, in this, here itself, but you who partake such with complete shraddha and dana, endowed with shraddha dana, mat paramaha. Mat making, that is making me as the highest goal. Nothing else is important. Very, very powerful actually, because especially if you're um, acting in this world with in a karma yoga sense, I have to do everything only that I'm doing it for Krishna, 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 Krishna. I'm not doing it for anything else. I'm just, Krishna is working through me. Krishna, I'm doing it for Krishna. And Krishna's, making sure that I do this to the best of my ability, that I'm focused only on the work. So all this, that is what he's saying, is finally my dharma. That is um, dharma amritam. That is kind of the immortal dharma. Amritam means immortal, right? So that is really the important. So he wants to make it a point that all these virtues that we've talked about, they are actually under the heading of my immortal dharma, which is vital for one's spiritual progress. So, that's what he's reminding us. Everything that he's talked about the qualities, if I do with that, it leads to spiritual progress in a way. And he's saying, and he makes it tempting, finding, and he kind of is giving this uh, sort of, what should I say, um, the candy for us by saying that, only such people are really, really, really um, very, very important for me. So he says, uh, so of course we all want to be that, the student who can get that candy, or the person who can be, most loved by the teacher, right? I'm sure, Suvarna, I don't know if you were the Balaviha teacher for the younger group or anything. I remember Meenu, Meenu used to take so much of stuff, and the kids would just crowd around her. They all want to hug her, So everyone wants to be the favorite student for the teacher. So that's what Krishna is promising. Guess what? You do all this, you'll be the closest to me, So idam yatoktam paryupasate. And, he's saying, therefore Krishna is saying that when a seeker yatoktam goes through such thing as I mentioned, with all, whatever we talked about in the 12th chapter, then dharma amritam. So this type of bhakti yoga is dharma amritam, which is amritam, which means immortality. And this is, there cannot be anything bigger than this. That's what he's saying. See, we all sometimes are so product focused. When I say product focused is, I do everything thinking that I will get something. I mean, this is at work too, whether you're developing a program or you're coming up with a different version of software that you're writing codes. We focus on the finishing of the thing. We don't focus on the actual process. So here, these qualities will allow me to make sure I'm following the process. And mat paramate bhakta ativa me priyaha. So when we follow this path of ultimately keeping Krishna as a goal, then he also brings, makes me his most favorite student. Ativa me priyaha. So with that faith, we are asking Krishna to bless us, and we all can become the greatest bhakta also and be the closest to Krishna. So that is what he's trying to say here. So this completes a very beautiful, one of the shortest chapters of Bhagavad Gita, which is only about 20 shlokas. All of them, all the 20 shlokas could be easily memorized. I remember the 12th chapter when 1997 December I'd been to Chinmaya Houston camp, and there the Acharya of the place, Gaurang Bhai, he had given this talk on 12th chapter, and we as from Chinmaya Mission, Ann Arbor, we had about 10 of us had gone there. And when we went there, and when we came back, I remember Sangeeta saying that, oh, let's take this as a sadhana, let us memorize the shlokas and then chant, we'll meet together and chant. And we did that. At that time, we memorized all the shlokas after we came back from the camp. And then we got together and we, chanted. Just memories of 12 chapters just came back to me about, we've heard this so many times, but that particular 12th chapter that I heard has a lot of memories. And in fact, Gaurang Bhai, who was the Acharya of the place, actually was here on Sunday because he had dedicated a huge, they actually donated about $1.2 million towards our campus. So we had a ceremony to honor them, honor him and everything. So just these memories came back to my mind as I was thinking about this. So a short summary. We started off with the seed of this bhakti yoga, which was planted at the end of the 11th chapter. So Krishna had ended the 11th chapter by saying that Ishvara is in everything and that everything is in Ishvara. But then, for all of us who are living in this world with these five sense organs which are making contact with the world and not really Ishvara, it is very hard for us, right? It's very hard for us to really be aware of Ishvara's presence everywhere. I'm only seeing buildings and trees and stones and people and bad people, good people, all that, Where is really Ishvara, right? So, this is why Krishna reminds us that the entire world is Ishvara and that Ishvara is in everything. So, I need to be constantly be aware of Ishvara's presence. So, till we get to a state where this happens very effortlessly, Krishna is saying, there's this very easy path of bhakti or devotion. And what is this path? It is a path where I constantly abide in the faith that Ishvara is in everything and everything is Ishvara. So I become aware of Ishvara's presence. So that is how the 11th chapter, till 11th chapter, we had finished it and we ended that. So then Arjuna, he begins the chapter by asking this question of the devotees, he gets a doubt. So do you mean to say, Krishna, those devotees who worship you with form, are they the superior people? Or you said, Krishna, you are formless also. So are those devotees who worship you without form? Tell me who's superior. Again, that competitive spirit in him, right? I mean, wanting to be the most favorite of Krishna, student of Krishna, and he wants to know, tell me what is it that will bring me closer. So then Krishna replies, the worshipper of Ishvara without form really sees no difference between him and Ishvara. But for most of us, who have we go through this purification of my ego, right? I mean, um, the more and more lectures I listen to, the more and more sadhanas I do, I am purifying my own ego, right? And but yet I do have a sense of an identity which I think is very unique to me. And for such people, the recommendation is yes, you have to pray for Krishna with form, and that's for the majority of us. And the key point about though for that one is when I'm worshipping Krishna with form, I need to start developing some qualifications. And one of them is that single pointed devotion. So there were three qualifications we talked about, which will allow me to get closer to Krishna. And so Krishna gives a sequence of various steps, you know, to how to get to Ishvara, starting with Karma Yoga to Bhakti Yoga to Jnana Yoga. So in Karma Yoga, we are asked in the beginning, I have to renounce my fruits of action by submitting them to Ishvara. So anytime I get an award or anything, I say, Krishna Arpanamastu. So that is how we discussed it. So we start as soon as we get up in the morning to perform every action for the sake of Ishvara. So that is really the Bhakti Yoga or the Yoga of devotion. So once I've diminished my selfish desires and ego to a large extent, then I start to do this Upasana Yoga, which is I repeatedly meditate upon Krishna with form. When I do this meditation continuously on Krishna with form, I reach a state where I'm in constant awareness and knowledge of the fact that ultimately it's nothing but Ishvara. So, this is a beautiful kind of a transition that happens, or the steps which we have discussed before, and which is ultimately this knowledge of Jnana Yoga. So the chapter then finally, ends with about 39 qualities of this perfect devotee, and uh, we, in all of this, the most important things that he tries to keep on emphasizing is to develop this samatvam, yoga uchyate, which we have again seen in the second chapter or second chapter, yeah. To have that equanimity, to have complete unselfishness, no matter whom I'm interacting, I treat everybody the same, you know, be detached and have that unfavoring faith towards Ishvara. So that's how this shloka, this 20 shlokas is such a capsule, you know, to learn from it. And so, anything more to add?
Hari Om.
Hari Om,
So
Meena?
you said last, when you gave the summary, you said all of us want to have our own identity. So if that be the case, you said we have to worship Lord Krishna in a form.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
So, currently, I'm Sunitha, you're Meena. Can you imagine yourself not being Meena at all? Is there at any point in any of your actions during the day where you feel that Meena is not acting on it? I mean, I don't think so, right? We immediately, that aspect of Meena's doing this, Meena's doing even worship to God, Meena's feeding the grandchild, it automatically comes in, right? So that is the identity with which we are transacting in this world.
Mhm.
So when I transact in the world as an individual with a certain identity, um, I I feel that I am always doing something to somebody. So who is that somebody? I have to slowly in my mind uh, um, change the focus that even when I'm feeding my grandchild, I'm not really feeding the grandchild, I'm feeding Krishna in the form of my grandchild. I'm feeding, I'm talking to my friend who is Krishna in the form of my friend. So, when I consider myself with a form and an identity, I automatically want to transact in the world with somebody who has an identity.
Okay.
Okay, so that is why uh, this two forms, Saguna Bhakti and Nirguna Bhakti, has been brought. So, very powerful. If I consider myself with no identity,
Mm.
then it's easy for me to think about somebody with no identity, with no form. Sorry, identity in the sense
Oh.
where I'm consider myself with a certain form and a name and everything, name, position, all that. So that is why he says, ultimately in this 12th chapter, he says, for most of us, the sadhana which is important is to pray to that Lord with a form.
Mm.
Because so he's just making it easy for us to understand, you know.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So
I know we
nice. Yeah.
don't have time, but I still thought if there was the most basic concepts from this one was the bhakti and then nirguna versus saguna bhakti and what is bhakti yoga sadhana and then ultimately the sadhana that I need to do and what are the benefits I get out of it and how the transaction in the world at three levels, where normally I transact in the world as a karta, as a doer of variety of actions. That is one role I play. A second role I play in the world is somebody who is a recipient of a variety of experiences as a bhokta. So karta, bhokta. And the third one is me as an observer of the world. So Krishna says that at all these three levels, as a person who's doing the actions, which all of us are doing that, and then I'm a bhokta, I'm a recipient of variety of experiences, and as an observer, in all this there will be total transformation in our own personality. Again, I keep coming back to this fact of in today's world, I mean, mental health is so huge. And me, when I'm dealing with the 17 to 21-year-olds, you see this happening, and it's very sad, actually. And this kind of knowledge which is there in this 12th chapter and in Bhagavad Gita, it can really, in one shot, like Dhriden in 15th chapter, right? In one shot, you can cut the root of that problem, So uh, once I get this knowledge, then I realize that, what is really the transformation that we go through, that my actions are no more born out of a sense of incompleteness. Today, whatever I do, I am actually doing my actions thinking that if I get this, my life will be complete. Starting from the time when we are born, that is the single mantra by which we are operating, if you think about it. If I finish my 12th standard, plus two, um, yeah, 12th in US, we would say plus two, you say here, then my life is complete. If I get this particular IS, whatever thing, or medical degree, or engineering, or computer science, I'm complete. So we are basing all our actions today more because I feel I will become complete because after I do that. But I realize that again, there is something else. It's like this box of tissues. You take one tissue, there's another tissue waiting, or I give this Walt Disney Florida example. I remember that I went there, you're standing in line to get into one of these carts. As soon as a cart, another is there. Another, it just keeps coming on and on. That's how our life is. And this is all because we feel I'm not complete. But after going through all this, I realize that I have always been complete. You know, I don't need anything else to complete myself. My actions are really not for fulfilling anything, but they're done out of fulfillment. So there's no more motive. So that is what we get to. So we finally end the 12th chapter, which is called the Bhakti Yoga. And yes, this is the essence of the Upanishads, which deals with the ultimate knowledge of Brahman, Brahma Vidyayam, Tat Sat Iti, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita, which is considered one of the Upanishads, Brahma Vidyam, which is about the knowledge of Brahman, and which is Yoga Shastra, it is a yoga by itself. It is Krishna Arjuna Samvada. It's a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. And this chapter, which focuses on Bhakti Yoga, Nama Dwadasho Dhyayaha. Okay. So we finished the whole thing. And I know, Meena, I think I never posted the 11th chapter full recording. I'll try and see how I can do it.
Yeah.
And probably I'll try to record this also and send it over. Okay?
No problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll finish. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.